I'd like to introduce you to Siebring's concept for helping you as a grower to introduce you to the new system that is being developed. The purpose of this system is to give you automatic performance in using of your soils. This gives you the option to reuse soil as well as to protect you from some of the diseases that are coming in directly from the bog or from some of the other sources of growing media that you're using. We have a hopper that is consisting of two parts. One is the feed hopper. The second is the stirring device that is in the bottom of the container to prevent it from bridging. Now, in using this unit, it next passes the soil into an automatic operated steam chain. And this steam belt is made of stainless steel. And the purpose of the stainless steel belt is to allow steam to pass through the material and be deposited into your container for the 30-minute dwell time that is necessary in steaming. We know that if we bring the temperatures up to the 200 degrees or thereabouts, or the 180 degrees, we can drop into the box and you can maintain temperature in the growing media for upwards of 30 minutes with a deterioration of 1 or 2 degrees in that length of time. Soil mixes give us a number of opportunities to introduce you to some things you need to know. This soil mix that we're using is about 24 to 26 pounds per cubic foot. We have found that there is a difference in using sand, or if you're using a full amount of just peat, or if you're using a nice mix for your growing. If you have a heavier weight material, it both takes longer to steam it because of the additional cubic feet pounds needed. You should understand that for every pound of material, it takes 1 BTU per degree of temperature rise. This is only the sensible temperature that you can understand while you are actually rising the temperature of this material. For instance, this material will come through here and it will rise in temperature from a 55 or 60 degree room temperature to up to 200 in the short space of about 2 to 3 minutes. The speed of the belt determines whether you are able to move fast and large amounts of material or slow and bring the temperatures to higher degrees. We normally look at 160, 170, or 180 as magic numbers for the 30 minutes of wait time. And as it's in the dwelling in the time capsule or whatever you choose to use as a residual, we are able to show you how that the material will pasteurize itself. We have done some research with the University of Iowa. We've done some research with some other types of soils and with some sands, and we find that it can be done, but at varying speeds. So by simply weighing a 5-gallon bucket of material, you can call us and we'll be able to give you an indication of the approximate temperatures you're able to maintain and the temperatures that you're able to pasteurize and the diseases that you'll be able to conquer. We'd like to also introduce you to the fact that you are able to kill different things at different temperatures. It's hard to tell you exactly, but we found that the most research shows that at 180 degrees, you're able to kill even the weed seeds. At 170, you can kill some troublesome bacteria, and 160 degrees is an adequate temperature which would give you the general kill for everything in your system. Now, a caution here. If you rise your temperature too much and you are trying to get the temperature up to 180 degrees for no particular reason, you can damage some of the good bacteria that are in the soils and possibly damage the soil for its growing media. We're able to give you a brief introduction now to the unit, and then we will show it to you in operation. The unit has several motors on it. This motor is for controlling the beaters inside of the hopper. The hopper itself is designed so it will accept about a 1,000-pound bag of your mix. And we feel that is a standard that most industrial people are going to be using. But you can put in several cubic yards without a difficulty. We also have extension wings which will help you in your housekeeping. There's a second thing that has an automatic control with it, and that is the use of the hopper. And as you turn on the hopper, it gives you the filling of the conveyor. And there is an automatic feature on this in that the conveyor will operate and fill until your soil mix reaches a given height on the depth control bar, which is for the depth of the material going into the steam tunnel. So you're able to run the hopper independently, and you can get along without our hopper if you have excess labor. But this is for your convenience, and we're trying to make it so that 1 or 2 people are able to operate the whole system. The extension here is made in such a way that we're able to rise and lower the actual plow, if you will, or the scraper that will level the material going into the steam tunnel. And as we level the material going into the steam tunnel, it depends on its density, and we want to regulate the depth in relation to the density so that we're able to get a flow of steam through the tunnel. We have a stainless steel web belt, and the stainless steel web belt will accumulate some material because there is a certain amount of penetration of the porous belting. And we have a brush and motor system that will actually keep a perpetual cleaning of the belt. Then, as this moves across, we have to sort out what has dropped through the stainless steel chain. And in order to do that, we want a drop box, and the drop box is to accumulate anything that we don't want to get into the steam tunnel. Now, as we move up here, we have attached 2 steam cells. The top steam cell and the bottom steam cell are both fed by a series of hoses. You'll notice that we're able to control the temperatures on the unit. We have a control as to the steam temperature coming in, and we have a control as to the material temperature going through. This is a sensor to tell you through the use of a signal light that the material is at temperature and the system will continue to operate. Should you lose your steam or lose your power source, a red light will start flashing and tell you that the material is too cool and you're not attaining your temperature that you think you are. So it is adjustable, and you can adjust the temperatures in order to accommodate what you want to do as a drop temperature into your time capsule box. Now, in steaming, you have to understand that there is a different number of BTUs available in creating steam. It takes roughly 180 BTUs to bring a pound of water up to the steam point of 212. Past that, it takes an additional 970 pounds to get it from the actual 212 liquid boiling point up to a liquid steam. And so as the steam is atomized and becomes a suspension of heat in these small globules of steam, the heat is being passed through the media, the growing media, and it collects in the growing media to rise the temperature. Now, when that happens, you know that there's something occurring that you are finding that is good. And I want to just diverse our conversation here a moment to tell you that if you are using hot air with the idea that you're going to be steaming, you're not getting any residual heat because most of the growing fibers are an insulator. And the only way you can prepare your soil adequately is to pass them over this steam. That will do two things. It prepares the soil for the appropriate tilth, which is the amount of compression that it takes to hold a ball, and it will give you the ability to hold the steam and the heat in order to actually do the pasteurizing. Dry air is not an acceptable method in most instances for dealing with our fibers for in the greenhouse. If you are using steam, know that low pressure steam, 15 pounds or less, does not give you the exact temperature that we're looking for. With our system, we're using about an 80-pound steam generator. That means that the steam pressure coming into this system at this point, as we get to the entrance into the steam hoses of the steam pods, is at 300 to 312 degrees. At the time it reaches up here, you have deposited a lot of that heat into the material, and so you're dropping your material at 200 degrees or thereabouts. Now, if you want to speed up the material going through, you can adjust the temperature of the material dropping into the box by speeding the conveyor, and we notice that if we run at 1 foot per minute, that gives you about 1¼ cubic yards per hour of steamed material dropped into your container. At that rate, you are able to raise the temperature on the steamed processed material to over 180 degrees, thereby killing some of the good stuff, but also taking care of the seeds. If you speed that up to about 16 to 18 inches per minute, you're dropping the soil at 170. And as I mentioned before, it'll take care of most of your pathogens that you're concerned about. We had the University of Iowa run a test for us. They used cloned E. coli and they used cloned salmonella diseases and have passed them through the material and in the steam process, and have found that the kill rate is so high that even the person doing the testing suggested that he would be willing to eat the soil if it were contaminated with salmonella or with E. coli. You are able to increase the amount of steam into the system and speed up your actual process by the use of 2 steam generators. This will give you a separate steam generator for the top pod and a separate steam generator for the bottom pod. We want to tell you a little bit about whether we're shooting ourselves in the foot or not, acquainting you with a steam tunnel as opposed to our traditional method of using a 2 cubic yard steam cart, our regular SG10 steam generator, and the use of an aeration blower. In that system, we found that it took approximately 3 hours plus to run 2 cubic yards. And our goal is that when we went to introduce larger growers where they needed 25 and 30 cubic yards a day, it was going to be an extraordinarily costly process in order to provide enough wagons, steam generators, and aeration blowers to produce that kind of volume. So as we started thinking and looking around, we decided that the concept of a steam tunnel would be far to our advantage and to your advantage as larger growers. Now, you have to tell us how many cubic yards you want to produce. But we have found that when we run our steam tunnel at 24 inches a minute, we're able to produce over 2 cubic yards per hour at a very, very good pasteurizing temperature of between 160 and 170 degrees. And this, when it's dropped into the box, will give you the kind of pasteurizing help that you need without the use of methyl bromide and some of the other chemicals that are on a short list of being outlawed. In using your steam generator, you need a building that is ventilated, and the steam generator we're not showing you just now, but the one that is visible on the video that we're using is a older style. We have created a new model that is not quite ready for publication, and it gives you what we call the mag steam. That is a supercharger on it, so we're able to get a better conversion of our steam into a dry steam. Now, in order to start the unit, we are able to turn on the unit, and you'll notice the red light is flashing. That indicates that the steam temperature on the material is not quite up to run temperature, but we've been using the material and then steaming, and we usually like to let it set for about a minute to accept all the steam that's necessary, and then have it ready for the start of processing. After you start this system, the automatic conveyor will turn on, and it's on an automatic system now. You can run it manually if you wish. So now we are starting to produce steam. The steam generator is at 300 degrees. The steam being delivered up here is at 212 or 214, and the steam that will be coming out will be about 200, between 200 and 180 degrees at the speed we're running. You'll notice that the cleaner brush is working here, and there's a second cleaner brush that works over here that's driven by the conveyor mechanism itself. So there's only two basic motors on the system. All of it's able to be taken apart for cleaning. This is the control box. You'll notice that there is a yellow light that indicates that the power is on, and there is a green light indicating that the steam temperature and the steam of the material coming out of the drop end of the unit is at the set temperature. Right now the set temperature is at about 170 degrees. There are 2 or 3 things on here that you should be aware of. One, that the hopper is interconnected and interlocked to this system. There is a timer in here, and the timer gives you the amount of action on the control for the feed box. They should come on in a few moments as the material rides down in the feed hopper. But then you have a control where you can run the system on and off manually. And there is a time delay that indicates that it has to be setting a time of about 2 minutes before the conveyor carries enough material away to allow the hopper to start. The speed control is a very simple control mechanism, and by moving it a slight bit, you can control the speed of this conveyor as it's going through the steam tunnel. Now when it's on a 10, you're running at about a foot a minute, and you keep increasing it, and we usually just take and measure with the help of laying an item on the tunnel and then taking a ruler and measuring it so you get a reasonable length of time passing. You're able to judge that as we will look in a few moments and see that the drop temperature, and you'll be able to see exactly what we're dropping after this short operation. The timer is started and you're noticing that it will fill automatically until it reaches the proximity switch, which has been installed to accommodate the automatic on-off for our fill hopper. At the present time, the steam temperature in the top gauge is representing the temperature the material is coming through the steam tunnel. It's running slightly over 200 to 205. The sensor, which is arranged directly next to it, is an adjustable temperature sensor, and its probe is down into the material, and it is telling you that the material is coming through hot enough to keep our announcing light green. The steam is actually coming in here at about 225 degrees. So you're getting a good transfer of energy at this point. The mist you see is that the room we're shooting in is a bit cool, and so any bit of steam or any vapor is coming out probably has given up its actual heat. Otherwise it would still be in a steam form. But this is merely vapor forming as it's condensing. The drive motor is located on the front of the belt and powers the unit to drop the material into your container for storage and for time delay. We have the probe in the box, and you're able to see that there is a very good temperature. Right now the temperature is reading 188. Now this is too hot for most of the soils that we would want to use. Therefore we would turn up the speed, and by turning up the speed you'll increase very easily to 2 cubic yards per hour, delivering your material through at about 170 degrees or greater. The soil we have here has just come from the steam box. As you'll find, after using the steam generator and the steam system for a while, there may be a few cool spots that will draw off some of the temperature from the superheated amount of steam in the soil. But for the most part, we're able to keep the steam temperature and the moisture content into a relatively good texture, so that within a few minutes you're able to take the material out of the box, I would say like an hour, and then be ready to process it. In our testing, we found that the steam buildup in the soil is approximately 1 pound of moisture per cubic foot. This means that we're not leaving an enormous amount of water in this material, and you growers know that usually you have to add some water to the fibers in order to get them to pick up and start generating the necessary nutrients in the soil and start the process of absorption of water. It will water much easier after it has been steamed. The dry material is going to be a difficult thing for you to plant. Even though you've done it traditionally, we find that after you've steamed the soil, the texture of the fiber is much better for the growing media. We're cooling the system down, and we'll just take a few minutes for you to scan over the system, and then you'll possibly see the annunciator light and the horn sound saying that the temperature has dropped enough that we should stop our steam process. You'll notice that the annunciator light has come on, and the very penetrating sound is starting to annoy you. So you probably want to get the unit shut off, because whatever's coming through according to the thermometer right now, is dropped down below about 150 degrees. And that's below the set temperature of the sensor.